What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so this is the situation we have right here. First of all, we saw something with Hurricane Ian that I don't think a lot of people expected right now. And to talk about that, I want to show you guys what really was going on. To do that, we'll show you the NHC basically advisory archive right here. So at 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we have Ian right here. It had winds of 120 miles per hour right there. It was moving northeast at 10 miles per hour, and the pressure was 953 millibars. So that's where the kind of the stuff we were leaving off with last night, right there. That's how where it began, and then things started to really get intense, and hurricane hunters went in, and by 5 a.m. they found winds of 140 miles per hour. And basically, what we're looking at is the pressure also sunk 11 millibars in those 4 hours. So the pressure at this point was dropping 2 to 3 millibars per hour. The pressure honestly was falling the whole day yesterday, and the winds hadn't caught up to it. And I was like, why is the pressure falling and the winds are still at 120? Well, what usually happens is whenever the pressure falls into hurricanes, the winds will almost always catch up with it. And this is exactly what started happening very early into the morning this morning. We were at 140 miles per hour, and that's a massive jump in intensity. But what I'm about to show you next is absolutely shocking right here. At 6:35, the NHC said this: recent data from NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft indicate that maximum sustained winds have reached 155 miles per hour. 155 miles per hour. That is a high-end Category 4 hurricane. Well, that's what the NHC is kind of stuck up to at this point by the 11 a.m. advisory. That's what they've stuck to at 155. However, there is evidence that this thing is a Category 5 hurricane, and I'm going to tell you what that evidence is right now. The first piece of evidence is that there was a reading from the radar in Tampa, and it shot up a beam that went about 2,000 to 3,000 feet up into the air by the time it approached Ian, and they found a velocity reading of 190 miles per hour. That's the first thing, and that's not the surface. Keep that in mind. That's around 2,000 to 3,000. That's a few thousand feet up. But if that translates correctly, that's Category 5 strength right there. That's a Cat 5, and that can translate to around 160 to 165 miles per hour. The second piece of evidence was basically Hurricane Hunter reconnaissance. We were finding flight level winds earlier of 165 knots in the northwestern eye wall. And basically 165 knots, that is that's around 190 miles per hour, and that's at flight level. And if you translate that correctly, if you take it by the standard, which is you multiply it by 0.9, and that's your surface observation right there. That's a Category 5 around 170 miles per hour. Another piece of evidence is we found an SFMR, which is kind of like it's kind of the simulated run at the surface and everything. We found several SFMRs of over 158 miles per hour. 157 is Category 5. So that's what we're looking at right there. And I've been keeping an eye on Twitter, and with all this evidence, it seems that the NHC is running a little bit conservative with this. I think, and I talked to Ethan WX about this earlier this morning, I think this is going to make landfall as a Category 5 hurricane. And with that being said, the Pat's Path Predictor channel is upping basically the threat level to Code Purple. Code Purple means that we are expecting a Category 5 hurricane or winds of 150 miles per hour or greater at landfall. It meets the one criteria right now, actually. So, yeah, I feel confident enough to upgrade to Code Purple. And I'm not saying this lightly because this is a very serious situation. There are people who haven't evacuated where this is making landfall near Punta, Gorda, and Port Charlotte. These are quite populated areas. And I get it, some of these people can't evacuate. These are very populated areas. It's hard to evacuate them. But considering what we have right now, and considering that this thing is making landfall at such a powerful storm, yeah, it's kind of shocking to talk about with words, honestly. But we're going to go ahead and show you what's going on. And probably the biggest thing that's helped this thing, funny enough, is the wind shear. Because had this storm moved further to the north, the wind shear would have torn this apart. But what the wind shear did, it made the storm more compact. Basically, as that shear started to increase as it moved to the north, the storm's circulation and all the storm's convection and everything like that, it started concentrating into a smaller area and everything. That doesn't mean the hurricane wind field got smaller or anything like that. It just got more concentrated and more organized. And the hurricane used it to its advantage. And now we're looking at a high-end Cat 4, low-end Cat 5 landfall. But even if this doesn't make landfall as a Cat 5, the results are still going to be the same. They really are. High-end Cat 4 is a catastrophic landfall. Low-end Cat 5 is a catastrophic landfall. You might see a couple more inches of storm surge, but that's it. The winds are virtually the same by that point. It's basically as if you're looking at an EF3 tornado that's like tens of miles wide. That's basically what we're looking at. So basically we're going to take a look at the track models and the intensity. After this thing makes landfall in Florida, it's expected to move out to sea and potentially re-strengthen as it's moves out there. Depends on the organization, everything like that. There's actually a hurricane watch for parts of Georgia and South Carolina because of this. And there have been an increasing amount of models of this thing potentially strengthening up to a hurricane before it hits the Carolinas or Georgia. So that's what we're looking at right there. In the intensity models, this is when after it makes landfall, the winds start going down and everything. We do have some models that keep it at potentially major hurricane strength, but that's not going to happen because this hurricane is basically going to stall over Florida for the next 2 days. It's going to move very slowly over Florida. And considering that, that also increases the flood threat as well. So, yeah, if you are in Punta Gorda, if you are in Port Charlotte, if you are in that area where this thing is going to make landfall, it's too late to evacuate. Shelter in place, and pray to God everything is okay. But if you are not from Florida and you're watching this from somewhere in the United States, please say some prayers for these people. There's going to be a lot of damage caused by this. People are going to lose their lives. It's a hard thing to say, but that's basically what's going to happen. Yeah, that's pretty much what this video is going to end out to be. Yeah, I'll update you guys when this thing makes landfall. Stay safe.